Hi everyone, welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're gonna make the cutest little, in my opinion, like a party pouch that you will have a hard time only making one of. Trust me, these are a little bit addicting. Today, we're making the Aurora, and this comes to us from Acquaint Stitch. So I have been a fan of Acquaint Stitch patterns from afar for quite a while now. I've had a number of their patterns on my list. I actually have one, it's like a backpack sling that's already cut out. I just haven't put it together yet. But I've been so eager to get them on the channel, and so I was like, you know what, I need to find something quick, something great for last minute gifts for the holidays, and look how stinking cute this one is. So the Aurora pouch, there's actually like 3 different types of Auroras. I think there's like a wristlet and a crossbody. There's a lot. But we're gonna do the simplest one, which is the Aurora pouch. But even that, it's a pouch, there are still like 4 different options for this. Lots of different ways to do the front panel, a couple different ways to do the back panel. So today, we're gonna be doing one just like this. We're gonna do a front panel with this super fun fringe, which I'm just loving. And then we're gonna do the back panel with this little zipper pocket right here. Nice and easy, very simple zipper. The top also has a curved zipper, again, very simple. And then inside we just have a basic lining, nothing fancy, no card slots, nothing like that. So this is a quick make that doesn't really look like it was a quick make. So I don't know if you can tell, but on this version, I was going with more of like a Western feel. So this is a faux suede vinyl. All the material from this, all of the fabric from this is coming from Indo Love Creations. I am loving some of the stuff they have right now. Let me just show you. So this fringe is a faux suede, which is so fun. And then underneath, it's a faux denim, which is what I used over here too. It's a lightweight vinyl, very easy to sew. I layered it up a lot and then I top stitched it onto the zipper. I didn't have any problems with needles bending or breaking or any tension issues or anything like that. So we're gonna use some more material from them today, but we're gonna mix it up just a little bit. We're not gonna go with a country theme. We're gonna go more with like a going out to a party theme. So thank you so much to Acquaint Stitch for allowing me to use your patterns in my tutorials. You guys, I mean, seriously, we've been speaking since like April. I've been trying to get one of their patterns on the channel. Like I said, I've got, what is it called? I think it's called the Wayfarer sling. I've had it cut out. I just haven't been able to make the time to really make a bigger bag lately. So it's just been kind of sitting there. But I was like, you know what? I need a pouch to make. And this is stinking adorable. So I think this is gonna be a great, great addition to your like last minute gifting. This is also a great little pouch for any teenagers in your life. I don't know a whole lot of teenagers right now, but I remember being a teenager, and teenagers can be a little tricky to please, and this is one of those things where it's like, I mean, you know, you put some gift cards in it, bada bing, bada boom, done. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shoutouts, anything at all, leave them down in the comment section. I will have timestamps as well as links to everything. They will be listed down in the description of the video. So I think if you go over here, maybe over here is a little triangle, you can click that and then it will expand the description, and then you'll find links for the products, you'll find timestamps. You'll also find the timestamps just hovering right along the bottom of the video. This is a pretty quick make, but if you are just interested in like, how do I do that fringe or how do I do that back pocket, utilize those timestamps. All right, guys, let's get started. Okay, so there's really not a whole lot that goes into this bag. You're going to need some exterior fabric, and if you're going to be doing any sort of contrast or maybe with fringe, have some fabric for that. So for the main part of the body of the bag, I'm going to be using this velvet. Now, when you think of velvet, I think your nose might start itching. This does not shed. This is like a vinyl backing, but a velvet coating, and then when you cut with it, there's no shedding. It's amazing. I actually haven't sewn with it yet. I've only cut it, but so far I'm loving it. So this is this beautiful velvet material. And then for the contrast on the top of the back, I'm going to use this faux suede right here. Both of this comes from Indo Love Creations. For the fringe today, though, I'm going to use this really lightweight vinyl. Now, here's the thing with the fringe. The fringe panel is actually stitched right on top of a full panel. So the thicker the material you're using, the thicker this seam right here by the zipper is going to be. So if you want to make sure that this right here isn't 2 layers of really thick vinyl that's then folded, so now you have 4 layers that you have to top stitch, if you want to avoid that, make sure you use a lightweight vinyl, either for the fringe or for the body of the bag. So I would say this is kind of like a mid-weight, pretty lightweight material for the body of the bag, and then my fringe is very lightweight. So you're gonna need about a half a yard of material for the exterior of the bag, and then about a half a yard of material for the lining. I'm using water-resistant canvas. It's very lightweight. It doesn't require any interfacing, easy to work with, so that's what I'm gonna be using for the lining today. And I'm not using any interfacing or stabilizer. All of the structure of the bag is going to be from the material that I'm using, and that's it. This is a great, quick project, and there's not a whole lot of extras. You just need two zippers that are number 5 zippers, each 8 inches long, and then I just have 2 fun zipper pulls to go with that, and then I have my bag tag. Okay, not a whole lot of extras today. I have some clips as always, and then I have 2 of my favorite material marking tools, an air erasing marker and a vinyl marking tool. Even if I don't have vinyl, if I just have darker fabric, a lot of times I do like to use the silver ink from this. It just shows up better. And then I have some washable double-sided tape, something nice and lightweight. A lighter as always to clean up any little threads, a 1" by 6" ruler. Bobbin thread today is going to be the Gutermann thread from Joann's, nice and lightweight, but not cotton. And then my needle of choice today is a Microtex 8012. And for my top thread, I will be using, let's see, this is a Tex 45 weight thread, so it's a little bit thicker. I don't use this in the bobbin, I only use it through the needle. A Tex 45 or 35 weight thread is great for top stitching. So let's go through the pattern pieces. There are a lot of different pattern pieces. You don't need to use all of them. It depends on how you're making this. Are you using vinyl for the accent? Are you using fabric? Are you going to have an accent panel? Are you going to do a zipper on the back? So this is a really like build your own pattern. I kind of wanted to add all the fancy stuff, so that's what we're doing today. So for this, I have one main panel, and this is going to be the front panel, and I'll add the fringe over this. So this is that wonderful velvety material. And then from the same main panel, I have 2 lining panels. That's it for lining, no pockets. If you want to add a pocket, go for it, but you don't have to. Pattern pieces B and C are for the back panel. If you want to just have one main panel, you don't want to do a zipper pocket, then you're going to just use pattern piece A for the back panel. But I'm going to have this fun little contrast here. I chose not to use the same vinyl that's for the fringe for the top, just because that vinyl is so lightweight. I was kind of worried that it might like crinkle on itself. So I wanted a little bit more structure for the back panel top. So I went with that faux suede, and I think this is just gonna look really nice on the back. I think this is gonna pair up really nice. And the remaining pieces I have are D and K. We're gonna need both of these for our fringe. You're gonna cut out your fringe material using panel K, and the measurements for this are in the pattern, so if you don't wanna trace it, you don't have to, you can just use your ruler. But you're gonna first create your rectangle, and then I'm gonna show you how you use the accent piece here to build the fringe panel. And then I have 2 cuts of lining material for the zipper pocket that's on the back of the bag. And then I have my 2 cuts of my lightweight vinyl here. This is for the zipper tab. You could use fabric for this as well. There are different pattern pieces depending if you're using vinyl or fabric. So the very first thing we're gonna do is prepare our top zipper. So if you have zipper tape like me, just cut it down to 8 inches. Once you have your zipper tape cut down, go ahead and add your zipper pull. I actually like to mix up metals here. So my zipper tape is a black coil. The coil is actually black, just like the fabric on the tape. And I'm using a rainbow zipper pull. I like to do that. I mix up the metals all the time. Now remember, the teeth on my zipper tape is not metal. It's a plastic that's meant to kind of look like a metal, but it's not metal. So once I have my zipper installed, I do like to melt down the edge. You see how it's already starting to fray quite a bit? The thread that's used to make these zippers is a plastic material, so you can just melt it down and it won't catch on fire. And that will help prevent the fraying. It'll just melt, and now it's nice and sealed. So now we're going to install our zipper tabs. Remember, this is for the top zipper. So take one of your tabs, and on the short edge, line it up with the raw edge of your zipper tape and just lay it right sides together. You might want to grab some clips and clip these together. I'm going to do this for both sides, just zipper tab right side down on the right side of the coils of my zipper tape. And now let's go sew along these short edges at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Once you have those stitched down, go ahead and flip the zipper tab up and away, and then wrap it around the back. And you can have it wrapped all the way nice and tight if you like. You can also bring it up a little bit. I'm just gonna wrap it all the way. Just like that. The back of this zipper doesn't have to look incredibly great. We're not gonna notice it. So for both of these, I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna flip it around, wrap it behind the zipper tape, and get it nice and straight, and use my clips to clip it in place. You see, now you'll have these cute little zipper ends. Isn't that sweet? I'm such a sucker for zipper ends. I think they look so good. So now let's go ahead and top stitch. We're gonna top stitch from this inner edge right here, not the very far edge, but this inner edge right here by the zipper at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do this on both ends. And there we go. Now we have our zipper all prepped. You can put this to the side. So now let's play with the fringe. Okay, so take your fringe rectangle and lay it wrong side up. And then grab your vinyl accent piece. So this is piece D. And center it on it. So it should come almost to the very edge. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just center it on there. And then line up the top edge with the top edge of your vinyl. So if you have it a certain way you want it, there we go. Again, don't worry about perfection here. So what we're going to do is we're going to trace this. We're going to trace the entire accent panel. So you see, I'm just going to trace it. This is why I said I like that silver pen because it shows up better. And I'm just going to go right along the top, all the way around the sides, and then also on the bottom. Okay, so lift it up. Make sure you have your whole outline there. That looks good. Now we're going to take a ruler and we're going to measure 1/2 inch in from each of these corners. So 1/2 inch in from the corner, parallel to the right side, and then just draw a straight line going all the way down. So you should have something like this now. You have your accent and you have these straight lines. And if you want, you can leave this fringe straight down here, or you can curve it, which is what I've been doing. So you're going to take your accent panel and you're going to actually pull it down like this. See? And then, I mean, honestly, either side, you can do it like this. So it's just like a small curve. I think that's what I did on the first one. Or you can do a more defined curve, which is what we can do now. So again, just center this so that the bottom is centered here. Once again, nothing has to be perfect here. Just try to make sure the bottom edge is touching the bottom edge of your rectangle. And then just trace only the bottom. Only how you want the fringe to look on the bottom. So here's what I have. I have my accent panel up top, I have this little smile on the bottom, and I have those straight lines. So let's start cutting, but we're not gonna cut everything. Okay, let's start with this bottom here. We're just gonna cut right along that little bottom smile. And then again, this is completely optional. If you want a straight fringe, then don't do this. If you want a really wavy fringe, then you can do like a couple of little bubbles here. That would be kind of cool. All right, so I cut the bottom off, and now I'm gonna cut along these sides and then go off towards the edges. So see, I'm gonna cut right up this straight line until I get to the bottom of my marks right here for the accent panel. And then I'm gonna follow the accent panel away from the center off to the edge. There we go. So we're not cutting this bottom piece of our accent panel, okay? This has to stay. So we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna come up the straight line on the side, and then I'm gonna cut from the edge to that intersection, just like that. So this is what we have now. And now I'm gonna trim along the top and the sides. So I'm gonna come over here to the side of my little accent, just like that, trim along the side, and then follow the top edge up to the middle, and then down the other side as well, and then cut the side, the little angled side. There we go. So now this is what we have, and now we have to cut our fringes. And so if you want to be very precise about this, grab yourself a ruler and just mark 1/4 inch lines going straight from the bottom up along the entire bit here. I'm not that precise. I do find though, if I start on one side, by the time I get over here, my lines are all kind of angled. So this time I'm gonna start in the middle. I'm just gonna go right from the bottom middle, cut straight up until I meet that line. So this is our guideline. We're not gonna cut past that, okay? So I'm gonna start like that, and then I'm gonna go one side and then the other side. So I'll start here on the left, and I'm just kind of eyeballing a 1/4 inch. It's not perfect, that's okay. Okay, so I have one side cut. Let's just look at it. Oh yeah, doesn't that look great? That looks so good. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Again, just eyeballing it. I mean, they look pretty good, honestly. They kind of look like a 1/4 inch, but some are more, some are less. My biggest concern is I'm just trying to keep them straight. I don't want them going off to the edge. And with all these curves, it can be hard to do. So I'm always just kind of looking at the straight side. As I was doing this side, I was always just kind of looking over here to the left to make sure my cuts were parallel to that side. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. All right, full fringe is done. Look at how glorious that is. I love it. So now we're gonna grab the front main panel and lay it right side up, and then grab your fringe panel and lay it right side up right on top of it. So now take that accent panel again and lay it on the right side of your fringe accent piece here and grab some sort of a marking tool, an air erasing marking tool, a vinyl tool, something that will come off. So I'm going to use my vinyl silver pen tool here, and you're going to just trace on the right side of your material along this bottom curved edge. That's going to be our stitch line. So just trace it on there nice and gently. Again, with something that will come off, not a Sharpie, never a Sharpie. So you see now I have that curved line and I know exactly where to stitch. So now I'm going to grab some clips and just make sure everything is lined up along this top edge and clipped in place. If you'd like, you can glue this panel down only underneath this top accent piece, or you can tape it down. You don't want this moving around on you when we stitch it in place. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is stitch right on top of this line I marked. So I'm just going to top stitch. If you have a decorative stitch, you can use that. That would be awesome. I'm just going to use a regular top stitch right along this line, and then I'm going to baste down the sides and the top at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Doesn't that look fun? Oh yeah, that's fun. I like it. So you flip this over, and if you find that your accent panel is just kind of wider in some spots, peeking out, go ahead and trim it down. It's easier to install everything if we keep this main panel the same size as the back panel. So I just have just a couple little bits here I'm trimming down, that's all. All right, so now I'm gonna find the midpoint along this top edge here by just folding it in half and pinching it in the middle. And I always like to use scissors to kind of just snip a little triangle there. So I'm gonna grab my bag tag and some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to center this. I like it a little bit lower down. I don't wanna accidentally get it, you know, in the zipper or anything, so I'm just gonna put it right about there. So I'll grab some tape and tape the back of this, and then just center this. There we go. And now I'm just gonna top stitch my bag tag at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance around all 4 edges. All right, there we go. Our front panel is so good. It's so good. All right, it's done. We can put it to the side now. So now we're gonna work on the back panel. So you'll need your 2 back panel pieces. If you're doing the zipper pocket like me, your 2 lining pieces, and then your 8-inch zipper. Don't forget, as you're prepping your zipper, it's always a good idea to melt down the edges. Even if you're gonna be cutting this down to a shorter length later, it's just less of a headache if these are not fraying. So now grab one of your lining pocket panels, and you're gonna find the midpoint along the top long edge. Once you have that midpoint marked, go ahead and mark down a parallel line that is 7/8 of an inch from this top edge and 7 inches wide. So I just measured down 7/8 of an inch, and then from the midpoint, I measured to the left 3.5 inches, and then to the right 3.5 inches. Now grab your exterior bottom panel and lay it right side up. You'll want to also find the midpoint along the top straight edge of the back bottom panel. Once you have that midpoint marked, grab your lining panel that you're working with and lay it right side down. So your rectangle should be on the back side, and match these up at their midpoints and clip together, right sides together. And now we're going to sew right on top of this drawn line. So not along the top edge, but just the sides and the bottom 7/8 of an inch line. Once you have it stitched in place, we're gonna cut, and we're gonna cut about 1/4 of an inch inside the stitching. So just watch, I'm gonna cut about 1/4 of an inch from the short edge, and then about 1/4 of an inch from the long edge. We're not cutting through any of the stitches that we just made, and we're not cutting outside of it, because that would be terrible if you cut outside of it and then it was gone. There we go. And then at the corners, you're gonna wanna cut diagonally into that corner, close to the thread, but do not cut the stitching. Just go right along the corner to the corner of the thread carefully. There you go. Now we're gonna flip this right side out. So we're just gonna flip the lining back so it's wrong sides together. This part can be a little tricky if you're using a vinyl like I am, because we can't really iron this. If you're using a quilt cotton or waterproof canvas, then right now you can fold this back and iron it to keep it in place. But otherwise you're gonna have to grab some clips, and then we'll use tape as well, and that'll help. So you can see I'm just rolling the seam so that the material is both wrong sides together. Okay, there we go. So now we're gonna grab our zipper, and when our zipper closes, we want it going towards the left. And pretty much what we're gonna do is just lay this right on top and stitch it down. Seems a little tricky right now. Just keep pinching the seam, we'll get it. So let's first prep the zipper. Like I said, I like my zipper to close going towards the left, so I have it right side up, and I'm gonna grab some double-sided tape, and I'm just gonna add it right along the bottom edge of my zipper tape, right on the edge, not higher up than the very bottom edge. Now I'm gonna remove the paper from the tape. And when I lay this on top, I'm going to center my zipper tape in this little window, and I want this top edge of my zipper tape to line up with the top edge of my back panel. So first thing I'm gonna do is kind of center this. There we go. And I'm gonna add the clips to the top first. I'm not so worried about the sticky stuff just yet. You are gonna have to remove your clips. Try to get this as flat and straight as possible. And then just push down along the tape. I like to close my zipper all the way so I can get it as straight as possible. There we go. And the nice thing about the double-sided tape that I'm using is that it is pretty lightweight, so if I need to lift it up and refigure it, I can. All right, so that's in place. So now we're gonna top stitch along the short edges and the bottom and the other short edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to hold this zipper in place. All right, once you have it stitched down, flip it over. The big thing you wanna look for is did you catch the bottom edge and did you catch the sides? That's the major thing. You have to catch the zipper tape or else it's not gonna work. So now let's flip this over so we're looking at the wrong side and grab your remaining pocket panel and lay your lining right side down so it's right sides together with the other lining piece and match up the short side edges and clip together. And if you wanna make this a little bit easier for later, take the bottom edge here and fold it up about 3/8 of an inch or so. You're taking both panels, so both of your lining panels, taking them, folding them up, just like that. You can add a few more clips if you'd like. It'll make it easier to close it up later. There we go. So now let's flip this over so we're looking at the right side, and you're gonna flip the exterior panel away, and you're gonna sew along the short sides, only the sides, so the left and the right sides, at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, back stitch at the beginning, and the end really well. Backstitch down here very well because we're gonna be pulling lining through this later. So make sure you backstitch well at the bottom, and if you folded it like I did, just keep it folded as you sew it. So now our pocket is good like that, and we still have it, we don't have it basted in place just yet. So now we're gonna grab the top of our back panel and make sure, if you wanna go ahead and baste along this top edge so that the pocket panel is in place and it's not gonna move out of the way, then you can go ahead and do that. But I think I'll be okay. I'm gonna take my top panel and I'm gonna lay it right side down. What I wanna do is use midpoints for this again. So I'm gonna find the midpoint on the bottom edge of my top panel, and I'm gonna find the midpoint on the top edge of my bottom panel using my zipper tape. I'll just use my vinyl marking pen for that. Now I'll take the top panel, and it's gonna look just like this, and I'm gonna flip it right side down so the straight edges are matching. And I'm going to line up my midpoint marks and clip together. Make sure you're also pulling up that pocket panel if you didn't baste it. Now let's sew along this top edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you're using a zipper foot. So once you have it stitched down, keep the seam pointing up towards the top and press the top panel over the seam. So the seam is going up towards the top panel. If you have material that you can iron, you can go ahead and press this. Otherwise, just use your fingers and kind of give it a good press. And now we're going to top stitch right along this bottom edge of the top panel at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so now your back panel is done. All we have to do is put it all together. So grab your back panel, your front panel, both lining panels, and your zipper tape. And we want to make sure we have the midpoints marked on the top edge of all of these, as well as on both sides of our zipper. So when you mark it on your zipper tape, if you want to use scissors, you can definitely do that. You just want to make sure you clean up that cut. So you can see I'm just going to fold this in half like this and pinch the side to find the midpoint. Clip right at that midpoint. I'm going to do this on both sides. And now that I have those little clips there, remember I told you that zipper tape loves to fray. So you want to grab your lighter and just gently melt right in those little triangle cuts so that it doesn't fray. Okay, so once you have them all prepped, let's start with the front panel, and we're gonna lay the front panel right side up, and then we're gonna take our zipper, and like I said before, I like my zipper to close to the left, so as my zipper tape closes, it goes towards the left, and I'm gonna take my zipper and lay it right side down against the right side of my front panel, and I'm gonna match up the midpoint marks along the top edge. Now this is a slight curve. It shouldn't give you any trouble. It's not a really strong curve. It's not a long curve, so you should be okay, but I'm just following the curve with my zipper tape. There we go. So you'll kind of have to lift up your zipper tape like this a little bit, so it's like a hill. You might find it easier if you unzip it, because then you're just working with one side of the tape. So we're going to do this for both sides, just lining it up along that top curved edge. So now let's baste along this edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, once that's basted on, grab one of your lining panels and lay your lining panel right side down so that it's right side down on the back of the zipper tape, and just line it up along this top edge. It should be the same size as the front panel. And now let's sew along this full top edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. Once you have it stitched in place, all you have to do is flip it wrong sides together and pull them apart. So again, you might find it easier if you open your zipper. What I like to do is match up these bottom corners, because what we're trying to do now is get the seam nice and straight by that zipper so that we can top stitch it nice and cleanly. We don't want it to be like all wobbly, you know? So let's flip this over. I'm gonna close my zipper actually. I'm just gonna kind of pull along my zipper. You can see my zipper is kind of bowled up a little bit. It's not flat. You see it's kind of rolled up. That's okay. I'm gonna push along the seam as much as I can. And now we're gonna top stitch along this seam at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, but we're only gonna top stitch where the zipper tape is. So at the end of my zipper tab is where I'm gonna start. I am going to back stitch at the beginning and the end, but we're not top stitching all the way to the edge. We need to leave this part over here non-top stitched. Isn't that looking great? This is looking so good. It's so good. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing with the back side. So grab your back panel, make sure that this zipper here is in the middle so it stays out of the way. And now take your panel with the zipper and take your zipper and lay it right side down so it's right sides together with the back panel. Line up the midpoint marks and clip together. Remember, your zipper tape is shorter than the top edge of the main panels. It's supposed to be. Okay, so now let's go baste this zipper onto the back panel at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once that's basted on, make sure you're looking at the back side of the zipper tape, and then take your remaining lining panel and lay it right side down. So the lining panels are right sides together, but we're matching this up with that zipper that we just basted, and clip in place. And now let's sew along this top edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch the beginning and the end. Now take your lining and exterior panel that you just sewed, and we're gonna flip them wrong sides together. I would say this is probably the hardest bit. Top stitching this is probably the hardest part. So once again, I'm going to line up the bottoms of these first, and that kind of helps hold the top where I want it. Okay, so let's flip this over, and you can, that fringe wants to get right in there. But you see how this goes straight up like that? That's what we want it to do. So we want to flatten out this seam by the zipper, and the other side is like a wall. That's correct. So just like we did before, we're going to top stitch, but only where the zipper tape is. So from the end of the zipper tab to the other end, and I do like to back stitch at the beginning and the end of this. Again, I'm just going to kind of keep pulling this up like this. You have a lot of things. If you have the fringe, then yeah, you have it wants to come to the party, but it's not invited yet. Not yet. Okay, I know they can be a little tricky, but now watch when you pop it up. You see how nice that looks? Isn't that pretty? It's so pretty. Okay, let's finish this sucker up. So make sure the zipper is halfway open. You can do for both zippers, halfway open. Take your exterior panels and pull them right sides together. If you're doing the fringe, you gotta make sure the fringe stays out of the seams. You don't wanna have to deal with that. So we're gonna line up these boxed bottoms. And mainly what you wanna do is line up the tops here so that the contrasts meet at the same point. So you see my metallic contrast and then my faux suede. I want those to meet up at the same spot. So let's just clip the exterior panels right sides together. I'm gonna go along the sides and the bottom edge. Again, you see my fringe here? It's trying to get everywhere, so you just kind of have to shove it back in there. Don't sew the fringe into the seams. Okay, once you have the exterior clipped together, let's do the same thing with the lining. Let's clip together the lining, right sides together. And if you're wondering, I have my seam between the exterior and the lining. It's folded towards the exterior. I've found a lot of people have a very personal preference for that. I don't. It's just already going that way, so that's where it's gonna go. Okay, so you can see I have the sides of the lining. I'm just gonna put one clip along the bottom, but we're not sewing along the bottom of the lining if you're doing it the way I am with the back panel. So we're gonna do that later. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna sew along the sides of the lining at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then as you get towards the intersection here by the zipper, you're gonna decrease it to a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then on the exterior, on the sides and the bottom, you're going to sew at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Over here on these corners, you do not sew around them. You sew off the edge, and make sure you backstitch at these corners because we're gonna be tugging on them later. So you go down the side, off the edge, backstitch, lift up your needle, skip over to here, backstitch, go along the bottom. Same thing on the other side. So remember, zipper, exterior, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, lining, 1/2 of an inch seam allowance, backstitch down here, and don't sew along the bottom edge. Alright, there we go. So when you were sewing along the sides, you want to make sure you don't sew over the zipper tabs. You're trying to sew close to them, but you do not want the needle to sew on the zipper tabs. That's why I like to use the zipper foot, because the zipper foot kind of prevents that from happening. So now we're going to box the exterior bottom. So you can kind of reach in, pull on the sides here. There we go. So you're trying to pull these corner cuts away from each other and pull the seams towards each other. And you can open the seam if you'd like, or you can just twist the seams so they go in opposite directions. So for me on my side, my seam is going towards the right. On the bottom, it's going towards the left. So it's like they give each other a little hug. If you have a hard time getting it straight, pull further down. Pull down here, and that will help it straighten up on this little bit. So then just clip them. I like to add clips further down as well. Do this for both exterior corners. And then whichever way the bottom seam is going, make sure it goes that way on the other side as well. Don't twist it, because then the bag will have a hard time staying upright. Okay, now we're going to sew along these little box bottoms, just the raw edges, at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You might want to go over them twice, just to really make sure that these don't rip at any point. Okay, we've got the exterior done. So now we're going to reach inside. And we're going to pull the whole bag through the lining opening right here. So just reach in, make sure you poke out those exterior corners. This velvet looks so good. Let's see, are my fringe okay? Is my fringe okay? My fringe is good. Good. And then just pop up these corners over here. I might have to massage it a little bit. This bag is so cute. Look at that. I just love it. Okay, so to finish off the lining, what we're going to do is open the back pocket panel, reach in, and actually pull the main lining panels through the pocket panel. So it gets a little confusing, but we're not worried about the raw edges of the pocket panel yet. We're only focused on the main lining panel. So there you go. So when you can pretty much pull most of it out, just like that. And then you can just pull on the bottom like this. So just line up that bottom straight edge. Remember, this is the main lining panels, not the pocket panel. So just line up along that bottom straight edge and clip in place. And now let's sew along this edge at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. All right, once the straight edge is done, you can pull along the sides, and we're going to box the corners of the lining just like we did on the exterior. So just folding the seams in opposite directions, and then I'm just going to clip right along that teeny tiny raw edge. There we go. And now we're just going to sew along these two short edges at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so it looks like a mess. That's okay. So push this back into the main part of the bag. All right, once you have that back in there, now we're going to focus on just the pocket panel, because remember, the pocket panel has a hole in it as well. So just pull out the pocket panel. And if you folded down the edges like I did when I sewed it, you can kind of just pull on this, and the raw edges are gonna just kind of roll in on themselves. So we're gonna let them do that. I'm not that precise about how much they're rolling in on themselves, just enough so that I can top stitch over these folds and seal in all the raw bits. All right, once you have that clipped, we're just gonna top stitch right along this bottom edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. That's done. Let's push this back in. And then we can just zip it up. Make sure everything is nice and flat in there. Oh yeah. How cute is that? And it's so quick. You gotta make a bunch of these, right? I mean, you gotta make a bunch of these. I love this. And that velvet feels so nice. I love this bag so much. I really do. I really, like, look at that bling. Oh, it looks so good in the light. Oh, this is a party bag. I gotta go to a party bag. So, like I said, this is a great gift idea. I mean, we're getting close to the holidays, and a lot of us are kind of scrambling because it's like, we're the sewer in the family. Everybody's expecting something handmade from us, but I don't have time. There's too much to do. This is one of those bags. This is a good go-to one. It looks like it took a lot of time, a lot of energy, but it was actually pretty quick. So useful. Pouches are one of the most useful gifts you could give, one of the most useful gifts you could receive. I always love pouches. Just basic things. This is something that I would use. Personally, I'd probably put this in like a bigger bag if I were going out. And I would put like my cosmetics and things in there, maybe my cell phone. So it's just like a for fun pouch that's in my big bag. Or this is something I would leave like on my bathroom counter all year round because it's just so fun. And if you haven't tried some of this material, I highly encourage you to give it a try. The velvet, the faux suede, the faux denim, it's very easy to sew. It comes together really nicely. And like, how fun is that? How fun is this? I hope you guys love this. So thank you so much to Acquaint Stitch for allowing me to use this pattern in my tutorial. I'm so excited. They have so many good patterns. I know a lot of people are gonna ask for the Wayfarer. They have like the bigger Wayfarer too now. It has like pockets on the sides, which is, I know, the like the water bottle pockets on the side of the sling. As a parent, yes, I know, we always want those water bottle pockets. So it is on the list. I am going to try it out. I have it cut out. I just haven't, it's the holidays, guys. It's the holidays. It's busy. We'll get to it. I'm very excited about it. But if there's any other patterns you want to see from Acquaint Stitch, please make sure you leave a comment down below and let me know, and I'll add it to my list. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Have a great rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys.